I'm telling you, every time I watch a new Mappa series, I really think they outdid themselves. And season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen was no exception. It was an insane experience. I enjoyed every single moment of it. One thing especially, obviously, this has only been the first arc of the second season. We've been getting a lot of, Geto and Gojo's dynamic and what was happening when they were in, school and all that stuff. And we're getting how Gojo developed his powers and things like that. But it just hits so crazy. The fights, everything about it was brilliant. And as someone who's read the manga, I was even more surprised. Okay? Because Mappa did something really special with this arc. One thing I actually wanted to really dive into real quick before I dive into Gojo, Geto, and all that different type of stuff was Rico. The thing about Rico was I knew what was going to happen to her, right? I had read the manga. But still, that particular episode, that particular moment, it just went in. You know what I mean? It just built up that tension, and exactly at that particular moment, it just hit you like a truck, slam like that, you know what I mean? I don't know what, it did such a good job. It made me feel, and I had seen it already, you know what I mean? I was so surprised. They did such a good job. The build-up was just right. In a way where it was like I was watching it for the first time, and I was like, how did they do that, man? I was so shocked. And everything about this part of the season was great. I loved Geto and Gojo. Real quick, we're going to talk about that. Geto and Gojo were fantastic. Their dynamic, how they dealt with each other, how they covered each other's strengths and weaknesses, and how the lack of that for Geto leads to what we see in the later part of the arc, right? But my god, Gojo, they put a lot of effort into making them real dynamic and how they moved, and even that scene with the basketballs, like everything was just so well animated. And the small little bit of having Shoko there is a bit of comic relief and a bit of just lighter animation. It was just handier to have around, and then the trio did a very good job in that sense. But my god, it kind of felt like one of those buddy cop movies the entire way through, you know what I mean? There was some serious, you had to help this rich girl get to this location, essentially, right? And you have two buddy cops who have different backgrounds kind of playing off each other. But this is what this kind of felt like to me, who was like, buddy cops after the epilogue, you know what I mean? They've already had their buddy cop movie, and this is the sequel where they're all put together and they're all buddies and they're all just having the crack, you know what I mean? The movement of the fight scenes when they would get into fights together and they just move across buildings, and you'd have the camera would go with them, and just the way it was shot was brilliant, because you'd be moving around buildings, they'd be jumping out of buildings, they'd be moving around. There was a lot of stuff with Toji, Megami's father, who was the main guy who was going after them, right? He was the assassin who was going after them. And when he eventually shows up, the shock of him showing up and just getting Gojo like that, and then the fight between them, it was fantastic because Gojo wasn't moving, but yet you still felt the movement from Toji. The way they framed it and how he moved around and how he had to get through Gojo. Oh man, and that final attack when he got him down, man. So good. You could feel the fear in Gojo building up as he was about to get slashed. You know what I mean? It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. And even in the first few fights where they had Gojo and Geto just dominate the opponents they were up against. And as I said, the movement was mad. They moved around buildings, and even when the glass would shatter from Gojo's attacks, the way it was done was beautiful. Or the zoom into his eyes. I've talked about this with Mappa before. The eyes, the way they do the eyes in their shows are brilliant. Even with Vinland Saga Season 2, which I haven't even talked about yet. I want to go and rewatch both seasons before I even talk about it, but that was one thing they did really well this season as well. They seem to do better than any other studio, is their use of the eyes to really convey that emotion or the power of the scene. It's just brilliant, man. It goes so hard. I love everything about it, man. The build up to all these different moments, because obviously, as I said, the whole buddy cop thing with Geto and Gojo, and the build up to that betrayal that Geto feels when Gojo gets his reawakening. He becomes this new level of godly when he reawakens his reverse technique. It was just done so well. That scene in particular, when he does and he goes back to Toji and he's ready to fight, he's all blood in his eye and he's like, here we go. You ready to die? I was just fantastic, man. And the pure elation, you could feel the kind of, he felt like he was the next coming of Christ. He was coming up and he was just like, so happy, you know what I mean, in that sort of way. And it felt so well done. And I remember the manga is actually really brilliant in that chapter as well. That chapter was brilliantly drawn. I enjoyed it very much so. And it's a different style of interpretation, but I still think it was brilliant. I saw a lot of people going, "Oh, I give it out about it." Like, I didn't watch the videos, but I saw the thumbnails and stuff, and I was like, "Why? What do you have to complain about here, man? Everything they've put so much effort in and done. It was just so beautiful, man. I'm sure there was a lot of production problems, like there always is with Mappa, but they just pulled it off so well, so well, man. I swear to God." And that with Toji in particular, because we have Toji witnessing that moment, and he's like, "I still got this," right? And he has that same confidence that brought him the victory in the first place, right? Because the thing is, we never really have a villain win, right? A lot of the time, this is a new thing where Toji actually won. He killed the target, you know what I mean? And even beat Geto as well. That fight was absolutely fantastic. What I'm talking about, moving buildings, it was kind of like, do you know that scene one from Demon Slayer where they have the moving walls and stuff? It was kind of like that, but kind of a different take on it, where it was moving hallways and stuff. And Geto and Toji are fighting that way, and Toji still wins. His like more physical fighting style, more like that sort of way, was just really cool to see, and a real good change of pace from the usual sorcery style thing. More of a Yuji style fighting style in a sense, right? Because Yuji as well is more fist and stuff, but he also used cursed weapons like Maki, and in the next few arcs you're going to see Maki really blossom into a fantastic character, and there's going to be some amazing fights. I can't wait for that stuff. I'm not going to spoil it though. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's going to be fantastic, I tell you. Absolutely fantastic, and I think Toji's a brilliant way to kind of introduce us to that. Cannot wait. I will say though, that sort of fight and how they kind of dealt with that when Gojo did eventually get to Toji and get his revenge, and how, Gojo did feel remorse for it. He was like, I gotta help Megumin after that, and his interaction with Megumin was kind of sweet as well, because Megumin's like, well, he didn't look after my sister, so forget that deadbeat, you know what I mean? He kind of knows what's going on, but he still doesn't care. And I like that in a way, because we do see that although Toji, he felt more about his revenge on the Zenin, he did still care about his kids. He just kind of lost focus of that and only remembered his care near the end. But I think that was a perfect way to contrast it with how this religious group that were trying to also chase down Riko were kind of laughing once they found out she was gone, and that Tengen is still that type of person he is, and how that moment kind of shifted the relationship between Gojo and Geto was portrayed really well, because Geto seemed to be the more level-headed in that point in time, but it slowly sent him into a spiral because he knew Gojo was that far above him now after what he witnessed. And it was just crazy to see, because that episode in particular, when they have Geto go into a spiral and become the villain we see in season 1, oh my god, man, that was so good. They used a different style when he was when that monkey scene goes on, where he's like trying to convince himself that, oh man, humans need saving, and then he goes, fucking monkeys, he's disgusted by humans. Then he thinks of them as monkeys because he's so disgusted by them now. He's like, they're so inferior to me now. I am a sorcerer. Why do I protect them? That sort of way. That scene, the way they changed the animation for that scene, man, it was brilliant. It was so good. And it's really good for Geto as well, because he goes then to his hometown and just wipes them out. And the different reactions between Shoko and Gojo, because Shoko's just like, all right, well, I'm not gonna, I don't want to die, so I'm just gonna have a cigarette and talk to you, man. All right. And then Gojo's just the pure disbelief, because he's so powerful. He thought he had it all. He thought he could save people now, and then someone he trusted and had that belief of saving people completely loses it. And we see that because we saw throughout that episode, Geto feels very depressed, and we see that in the way it's drawn and how dark it is. That's the only time it's a bit brighter in Geto's perspective, and Gojo can't understand it. And I think Yuki's conversation with Geto as well, it's kind of a weird approach, because I remembered Yuki's future roles, and like, Yuki seems a lot more, on Geto's side, and why she didn't go that route, as far as we know, is a bit odd to me, because she seemed very on point with what he wanted to do, kind of agreed with him. Maybe she goes a different route. It was such a really well done episode, and even, as I said, for someone who has read the manga, it just went so hard. It really enhanced that material so well, and I loved everything about it. Absolutely. And let's not forget about that opening, man. Oh my god. Imadamo ada sundewu. Imadamo ada sundewu. Domina doka no shika. No tekata no teketa. Oh man, I know I butchered it, bro, but it was so good, man. Such a banger. A good way to start off. A good way to start off every single episode. Oh man, I don't know if they're gonna change the opening for the Shibuya arc, but bro, that was so good. That opening was so good, and it was just such a good way to pull me in. You know what I mean? Oh, I loved it. I loved everything about it. And just those three characters, particularly with this season, these three characters in Gojo, Geto, and Toji are going to be very important in the Shibuya arc coming. And to have Mappa do such a good job with the hidden inventory arc and building up these characters and their different motivations and their changes in characters, and how that frustrates each individual character, because we do have Gojo's still frustrated by it, you know, because Geto gave him an ultimatum that basically made him decide, you know, how he wants to deal with the situation, because Geto's like, are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest? And that really hurt him, because Geto was the only one who he thought understood him, and he throws him for a loop like that. He doesn't end up killing Geto, which I think everyone understands. You could feel the weight of that moment when it happened, and I think that's the most important thing about this season, is I think Mappa are doing such a good job at making you feel the weight of these scenes, which I'm not saying the manga doesn't do, but the anime just does on such a high level. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see what the Shibuya arc has in store. Let me know what you guys thought about the second season of JJK and the hidden inventory arc. Did you like Geto and Gojo's relationship as much as me, or were you way more invested in Toji? Because honestly, Toji was great. Or was there something else about this arc that you really enjoyed? Let me know down in the comments below. Below. One of my friends actually, the guy who did the thumbnail for the last video, Emmett Courtney, he just really loved watching the animation. I don't even think he watched any of it. He was just, he listened to any of the subtitles or anything. He was just watching the animation, because he like knows all the animators and stuff. Even when we were watching Gear 50, he was like, oh, this animator is that. I'm like, I don't know what it is, you know? And I think that's the different type of enjoyment he got out of it. But let me know what type of enjoyment you've got out of this season. Let me know your favorite moments. And with that being said, I'll see you again next time for the Shibuya arc. Have a great day.